All yours, Mr. Moreland.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
All right, good. So let's get into it. What recommendations? You'll talk to me, talk to us.
And maybe first, before we get started, if we could have a volunteer scribe who would like to take the notes and also report back out to the full group. Any volunteers?
Don't everybody volunteer at once, COAC members.
Okay, hearing none, I will
point somebody.
I'll gladly do it for the group. So go ahead and get started.
It's okay. What recommendations you guys have, or any questions? I mean, we're open book. Here's your time. Tell us what you think. Let's have a conversation. We've been having great, in our breakout sessions, great conversations. So let's just continue that up and tell me how you think that, our scopes and value contractors and how it meet community expectations. Whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm open. We're open.
Well, to the group, I'm sorry that James Posey isn't in this group, because the first thing I was going to say is I don't know what he's been drinking today, but keep on drinking it, because I know where he's up here giving kudos to ODOT, telling Megan how great she is and how wonderful. My thought is, obviously, if these values were not being looked after, we all wouldn't be here in the first place, right? And I'm looking at, then I'm not being critical of James, I'm just saying that that's what brought us all to the table. That's what brought ODOT and many of us, and certainly you, Brother Moreland, to this as well. I'm short on recommendation right now, because here's what's concerning to me, is that we still have, when we use terminology like community expectations, I get a little worried, because I'm still not clear that we and community are on the same page. Because every time we turn around, there is another wrinkle that happens to bubble up. And so I think what I know would be helpful to me, I'm not sure about everybody else, but on this particular question, it would be helpful to remind us what are the community expectations, to make sure that we are clearly in position to be able to get close to what those expectations are. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And our community has been divided for so long. And again, that's been done to us, right? That's not something that inherently, we didn't inherit this. It was done to us as a community, right? And so how do we now, in a place like this, where we have this golden opportunity for us, there's going to be a long-term project where we can actually build real capacity. We can help our businesses really grow. We can help solidify their workforces. We can help them build the capital resources. Sustained work is how we get there.
Right.
So as a community member that's in contracting, my biggest expectation is that we finally get the support from ODOT, which we have not had in the past. I've been meeting with ODOT for, over 10 years in their leadership council to get to the point that we are right now, right? And we finally, after all this time, we're finally here now. And Megan and her entire team and Brendan and Chris have all supported this. So we have a golden opportunity. And now we have the typical stuff that happens in our community where we all can't get on the same page, right? And it's very unfortunate, especially when you look at what's happened with COVID and all the jobs. And the biggest thing, the cornerstone to family stability, families being able to have employment, right? And buying a home is the #1 generation for families, right? Just like small business is the cornerstone to wealth in our country, right? And the fact that we have a catalyst, a $600 million plus project at hand to do that, and we're having what's going on, it saddens me too, Matt. My heart is broken. But I can't say I didn't expect it, but what are we going to do about it is the real question. So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So part of my thinking is, because for all of the things that you just said, Jeff, is the reason why I am excited and have, as I've communicated to you, to Megan, to many about this project in the first place. But it seems to me that we could potentially better use those places and spaces where community goes to get information, whether it's the Portland Observer and literally taking out a page to explain what's going on with this, the Observer, the Scanner, to the extent that we would consider a Facebook page. Maybe we've done that already. I'm sorry. I'm if that's the case, I'm not sure. All I'm saying is my big umbrella is about communication, because what people are not getting is exactly what Jeff just said. Because what we get is the anger that people have over what they still perceive as an environmental infraction, a belief that somehow the improvement is not really going to improve traffic, and people are not understanding that, and this is what I like about it, and I think we all do, is that it gives the opportunity to people to really create wealth as a result of this project, but it also is the catalyst to other projects around the state. That's what makes it exciting. But that message is not getting through. The message that's getting through is that people are upset, bothered, all that stuff. And the stuff that I just mentioned is really, when you talk to people, on the average person on the street, they're not talking about the things we're talking about, which says that we need to find places and spaces to literally put it in print, put it on, again, whether it's, a Facebook page or something, but we've got to do more to communicate the value of what's going on here, because we're being drowned out by everything else.
By the noise.
Right. And I pray that I'm not sounding like James. I'm not trying to. but I'm just, I think we all realize it. I mean, what shows up on the front page of the paper or the nightly news is not, look at all the great jobs that are going to be created. It's not. And I think we've got to do some serious work there, and some serious work. We did this recently with our IPAC group, with the editorial board, with the Oregonian. Something we hadn't been willing to do before, but we did it because we really wanted the message to get out to those that are paying attention to that medium. That was what was important. And I would say, let's find the other mediums as well.
Go ahead, Megan. I wanted to talk about, go ahead, Megan.
No, I would love to hear you as well, Jeff, but I wanted to say, Pastor Hennessy, you are 100% right. This is an area that we have to own, that we have not done a great job in, and need to do better, not only in what we are communicating, but to your very clear points, where we're communicating, with that intentionality around the community that we're trying to ensure benefits, specifically the African American community, from this project. So your comments are well taken, and we need to do better. And I know we've added some added capacity within our communications team as of late to be more strategic and different. So we'll start to put that into action. But I really appreciate your comments and suggestions this evening.
No, I appreciate that. And I would also just add, Megan, once we get further out of COVID, obviously we're going to be able to connect better. Until that happens, I just want you to know, if you want small group stuff and that kind of thing, you can use the fellowship hall here to gather people, to really have those face-to-face kind of things as well. I'm certainly open to that.
Awesome. You are far too generous in that. We'll definitely be in communication about that.
Can I jump in there? I think that's an excellent idea. My question is for Pastor Hennessy. Do you think the community should be telling that story and driving that story, or ODOT?
No, first of all, I think, Joe, you're right on it. Here's the thing. We've got to educate some speakers to do that. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to credibility, on the one hand, you know, first of all, hey, Jeff is, I don't care if, you know, Jeff was selling something I didn't want to buy. I could listen to him and say, I must need that, right? Because Jeff said I need it. But I think your point's correct. I think it's kind of a both and, Joe. There are some technical things that I still believe that ODOT can answer in a better way than we can as community. But I honestly believe that when people hear James Posey say, hey, I'm supportive of this, for most people in the Black community, it's like, we're not even used to James saying I'm supportive of anything. Now, again, no, you guys know, no, again, all the things I'm saying, you know very well I'd say it if James were here. But I'm just being honest that there are some speakers in our community that when they speak, people are going to listen. Joe McFerrin says, this is a great thing and it's going to help young people, you know, as well. I just think that matters.
Yeah, and Joe and Pastor Hennessy, to those points, the burden is on ODOT to be sure that we're supplying the right information in the right way that can be communicated out both by us, but as community members as well. So
yeah. I mean, and I'm learning that my sister Kenichi can do the same thing as Jeff. So, you know, we should, I mean, even though I'm teasing about it, we should really think about a speakers bureau or something like that, so that we're hitting all mediums is really what my message is.
Man, I think Kenichi's a little more fierce than I am, though. Kenichi, go ahead. What you got?
I would definitely not say that. I think you're fierce in very many ways that I certainly appreciate. And Jeff, you and I have had conversations around this project, and you know, I've certainly been able to share with you kind of my heart for it. And I agree with Pastor Hennessy. A lot of when we talk about workforce, and this is really a tangent, and I have another thing that I'd like to ask a question on, but when we talk about workforce and the people that we need to attract to work on this particular project, I think of also the immigrant community. I've raised this a couple times, where I have my views on ODOT's outreach in different types of communities, and I've shared that with the ODOT team. I think that a lot of times when we talk about Portland and we talk about the Black community, somehow the immigrant community doesn't make it to the list. And I think that is a huge fail as an immigrant myself. I don't think it's ODOT's, we don't marginalize any community. Everyone gets access. And I will get off that soapbox. So on the contracting, and kind of a follow-up to some of the questions that I was asking, I really do want to see stars out of Rose Quarter. I want to see people do scopes of work that they haven't done. I want to see mini CMGCs that just stand out and grow robustly. And so when I saw that $55 to $65 million, I was thinking about, you know, folks and what they do right now. And I'm thinking people already do $10 million, $15 million worth of work. I had raised my question because I wanted to ask, you know, who we should be thankful to with what James has said. I think this project and this opportunity is generational wealth creation. Like, that's what we're going for. And I don't see generational wealth creation in $55 to $65 million worth of work. I personally don't. And I think if, you know, companies like Mr. Moreland's are on these projects, I want to see them do 30 million. It's just, I don't get excited when I see that number. I was expecting it to be a little higher, I'll be honest. And I think that we need to, I know that for ODOT, this is the first foray, right? It's like, oh, we're doing this cool thing for ODOT. Other agencies have been doing really cool things. And so I'd like to see ODOT really lean into the work and tap into the many years of experience that the team brings, right? But also kind of think about, okay, if we are going to follow this model, we have a plan, how do we ensure that at the end of this, we're seeing people do things that they haven't done? Because as I'm looking at the numbers, it's not impressive to me. And I just think about, well, if someone does an additional 10, and there are many, I want to see DBEs do $10 million, not the mini CMGCs. So I think that as this project unfolds and as the plan gets fleshed out and deepened, we will see more, but those numbers are foundational, and those numbers will kind of set the stage for how we do things. And so I want to see more. And I am sorry that thankfulness is not my emotion today. I'm glad that we're having this conversation, but I think it's way overdue. And so I'm optimistic that we can get to a place where we start to say, wow, that's a big goal. Wow, that's a big dream. Wow, wealth will be created.
And I guess, Kenichi, I agree with you. I think this is the beginning. We're not going to restore justice in this project. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We can start the process of real economic empowerment. Remember, prior to us becoming, in all the many prime jobs that we were doing, that Raymore did over the years, we were $5 to $7 million a year company. That's just where we were. And that was still impacting and doing a lot. So I think it's going to come in implements, and you have to get the fiscal responsibility behind your company. You have to build out corporate governance. You have to build out all these systems to be successful in the future that many of our businesses just don't have. I know that because I work with them all the time, and I'm having on jobs, and I spend a lot of time mentoring, right? And doing a lot of trainings with a lot of our contractors, right? Because they just don't have these pieces. So it's going to take some time. And I agree, as this expands out, we're going to expand every opportunity. And that's my personal commitment. If I could do 50%, that's what I'm going to do, right? And that's just the reality of it. And everybody that knows me knows that, right? On my job out at DTP, we're at 36%, and that doesn't include Raymore as a DBA. We're self-performing 50% of the work, and 36% of it we're subcontracting now, so a total of 86%. We just won another job. We went to Fort City Council earlier this week, and we have 100%. All the work, 100% of it is going to be performed by DBE contractors. So you have my commitment that that's the direction I want to go into and expand it. We just have to be realistic. There's a lot of specialized work on this project that we just don't have the experience for, and the capital necessary to break in these areas we just don't have, right? To be able to drill and do this, it takes a lot of resources. Now we want to start some small companies and start building capacity, but to take on large scales and some of this specialized stuff, it's going to take us some time because we're so far behind. But I appreciate the comment, and I agree with you 100%. I like it to be where we were taking down the whole 650 million if we could. Joe.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point of emphasis that was just raised. And however, I think that we also have to work on the communication and messaging. And I'm thinking that I would just say for me, I'm more excited about working to get the community on board, which is going to take a lot of time, energy, and effort. But then also the question that was just raised is also going to take a lot of time, energy, and effort. So my concern here is, how do we do both? Or what's, if you agree with me that the communication piece is huge, as well as the issue that's on the table, how do we do both simultaneously? I guess is my question.
I mean, I agree with you, Joe. I agree. And Megan, you can jump in too. I agree that we got to get better at communication. I don't think that OJOT, like we said earlier, should be crafting the message to our community. I think that message, our people perish for the lack of knowledge, right? Because they don't understand what the real implications are. They can't look back in time and realize that I-5 and all the pollution that it was when it was initially put in the heart of the Black community, it didn't matter at that time. we have our kids going to Tubman for the last 50 years. All the pollution that's been there didn't matter at that time. Now all of a sudden our neighborhood is gentrified and now it matters, right? And right. So when I start looking at these things, it starts really, you know, and we can go on forever and I don't want to derail it, but you know, I'm very passionate about this. I have a lot of heartburn for the noise and the people driving our community and white people coming in our community and trying to tell us what we should value, right? When we have not benefited at all. And we're lower on the social economic totem pole than we've ever been as a community, right? And we're more divided now than we've ever been as a community. So I have a lot of heartburn with this. And so it's not them driving it, it's us stepping up. It's us. It's the Matt Hennessy's of the world. It's the Joe McFerrin's of the world. It's Kenichi's of the world. It's the Jeff Morton's of the world, right? In our community, the Christines of the world, that actually start stepping up and delivering the movement and say, hey, I got a problem with that. Yeah, we all for development. Nobody loves development. If we're doing $1 billion development, please tell me how that's going to benefit me, right? You know, we all went through Reaganomics. Some of us old enough to go through Reaganomics. The trickle down effect didn't work then. Trickle down economics didn't work then, and it don't work in all the development. Look around you, all the development's been done in Portland. How are we in worse shape? We have not benefited as a people. So, I mean, and again, I can go on and on about that, and y'all know that, but I'm gonna let that go because I get, you know, high fired up. But we have a lot of work, and with Joe, Kenichi, we need to start, Matt, we need to be crafting the message. We need to be the ones out there delivering. John L., the message you've been having for years, right? Andre, we have to be the ones crafting that message to our community.
I mean, Jeff, first of all, I say absolutely. And then here is yet another opportunity to enlist, you know, a Black-owned PR group or something like that that's right here in town, or how we use the Soul District, or, you know, other groups like that. Because, you know, give us the speech, we can, you know, deliver, crafting that speech to make sure that we're really focused on what really matters, not just what matters to us, but what matters as we look at the whole, is where I believe the, you know, a PR company or somebody like that, again, a minority PR company can, excuse me, be extremely helpful in helping us craft what that message is and be able to say, here's the Q&A, here's, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think that'd be helpful. And yet that helps another Black business.
And we have that in our plan, Matt. We do part of our plan. Go ahead, Megan.
No.
I don't want to be James. I'm getting old like him. I'm starting to get more and more like James in my old age.
No, that's okay, because actually we want to call you preacher anyway. But no, the reason why I'm saying that is I don't know where it is in the plan or at what stage, but right now what we know is that we don't own it from a positive standpoint. We don't own it as an opportunity at this time, that every time I-5 Rose Quarter comes up, it's a tough issue. And that's why I'm saying, I think wherever it is in the plan, we need to pull it up, like right now, and begin saying this work needs to happen now, because with this lawsuit and everything else, this begins to take the day.
Yeah.
Yep. And I can't beat what either of you are saying by any means. 100%, Jeff, agree with what you shared, and Pastor Hennessy as well. You know, in order for us to have that expanded outreach, we can't expect that just with our existing resources, we're suddenly going to change and do it. It's going to take more resources. It's going to take more intentionality of doing it differently. And so that's where we need to pivot. And if, you know, if you have specific, you know, businesses that you feel like excel in this arena as well, send them our way. We want to be able to consider those as we're moving forward in the plan too.
Excellent.
Christine?
Thank you. I'm so sorry I had technical difficulties, so I'm not quite sure what was discussed or said, you know, in the first 10 minutes, I think. But I definitely like what Pastor Hennessy, I'm so used to calling him Matt, so I'm hesitant, and Jeff has to say, and everybody else, the community needs to be heavily involved in crafting the message. I mean, I feel that way about the API community, if it's something within the API community, because, you know, each group, ethnic group, knows best in their community, and they're the ones who really should lead it. So I 100% agree with that. Kanishi, I wish you on my team when I was at Prosper Portland Seri, the Council on Economic and Racial Equity, because I kept on saying them, you know, contractors meet the 20%. You have it for years. Up it, up the numbers, because if you up the numbers, then they will meet it too. But I was the only one saying that. But you're right, and so I can say I don't know what exactly, but I'm hoping also that you would have job fairs, for this project to get the communities and notices out to the high schools, colleges, for job fairs or whatever, also for internship programs and for workforce training. So I'm hoping that would have the schools help out and the school board to help out with that, to bring the community in. But I'm also was wondering when I'm stuck on that chart with the DBEs, CMMGs, what the acronyms, whatever you call that. How many do you expect to have these DBEs to be mini CMs, CGs? Obviously it's not just going to be one, right? You're going to have a few different DBEs that will then have their own subcontractors. And I just kind of want to know, and I know it's preliminary, how many do you expect and what dollar amount do you expect each one of those to have so that they can then subcontract out?
Matt?
Thank you.
Sure, Jeff, I got that. Our analysis was 3 to 5 individual firms, and the value was 55 to 65 million between all of them. That was what came out of the first iteration of the process that Bill described.
Thank you. Kenichi? You're muted. You're muted, Kenichi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Dinner time, I start to fade. I was sitting with your comments and I have a couple follow-up questions. And again, this is really to ODOT and the whole team. With the mini CMGC packages, so have you identified, we want streetscape, what are the scopes that you're thinking will fall under that? And then what have you thought through what firms you would be targeting for these opportunities, and what dollar amount those firms are currently doing, and what is the target growth opportunity for them through this project? I think that will give some color to my thoughts around, is 55 to 65 the right range? Because, for example, if you tell me that one of the firms that you're thinking of using is, I don't know, O'Neill Electric, let's use them. I just spoke with Maurice. So, I'm thinking, oh, okay. So if you're saying O'Neill Electric is $10 million, I'm gonna go, could go either ways. I mean, that's not an impressive number for O'Neill Electric. But if you tell me that one of the mini CMGC opportunities is, say Raymore, I would say that's really not an impressive number. So I want to get a sense of who you're targeting for these, and so that if you list the 5 or the 3 and what their current capacities are, then we could really kind of start doing a backward analysis of, is this number appropriate, and start kind of building out for the firms what wow means for them. For me, this particular, the mini CMGC number is really important because it sets the stage for what's going to happen with the others, right? And if we start off with the mini CMGCs kind of saying, well, we don't want to overwhelm them, or then we're going to keep saying that throughout the entire project, and we're going to get to the end of this, and then community will come to us and say, well, you guys let that happen. So the color and the analysis would be super helpful.
That's actually a great point. Now, what I would say to you is that that's way down the line. And you have to keep in mind that they have to still compete. We have to structure this in such a way that the firms compete in order to meet within the guidelines. And so this is not going to be like just us selecting firms to deal with. They'll have to go through the whole RFP process. We'll probably do. We got all kinds of things they'll have to do because they need to learn how to compete for work too. That's part of it, right? Part of going as a CMGC is learning how to compete for work, right? And how to write a proper proposal, how to do a contracting or conduct construction, how to do all these things. So we got a long way to go before we get there. Those are all great points, Kenichi, and I agree 100%. But we just got a long way to go. And you're right, for O'Neill or Raymore, $10 million doesn't seem like, much, right? But what about some of these other firms, right? So I could see a mini prime being a $2 million a year. So a $6 million, $8 million contract, which might be enough for that mini prime. And the goal is to grow them to where they can be, instead of being a $2 million a year company, it can be a $5 million a year company, right? Maybe we have one that's a $5 million company and they're at, 20 million, and that takes them. So it just varies, and it's going to be, how we package it up and how they compete for it, and who we encourage to compete for the different packages. Hope that makes sense.
It does, and I'll just say one last thing, and I'll drop it. I promise. With the mini CMGC opportunities, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that those opportunities are for the larger firms that already know how to do some of these things that you're talking about, where the DBE opportunities are the ones where we kind of build in the capacity. So, for Raymore, you already know how to bid and you already know how to estimate and things like that. So if your firm was getting a mini CMGC opportunity, it would be enhancing what you're currently doing and helping you get bigger, but not necessarily focusing on so correct me if I'm wrong of the mini CMGC. That's my understanding of how that works.
No, I think that is the general understanding, but the mini CMGC process actually helps. I was mini CMGC when I was a much smaller firm, because that's how I built infrastructure, right? And that's how I really learned, because I had somebody like a Bill Bruce, who's working for Stacy at the time, who actually took me under his wing and really showed me the things I really needed to do to become a real contractor and to be able to grow and to build corporate governance, to build systems, to build infrastructure. So it doesn't have to be people just ready to take the next leap, right? Because a lot of us ready to take the next leap, I wouldn't even take a mini CMGC opportunity, right? Because that doesn't help me at this point, right? It doesn't help Maurice at this point, right? Because they're prime contractors. They're already established prime contractors, right? And who partner on big jobs with big contractors, right? But so it's more used to help, you can take some companies that are in the middle and grow them to the next level, but it's also meant for smaller companies that are ready to really grow and learn and ready to take that intensive technical assistance and mentorship to really build out the core infrastructure of the companies so they can compete more effectively in the future.
Okay. So I'll add just one more. I'll just add this to my list of questions of things that I'd like to learn about, and then I promise, keep quiet. Can you also include in that list a breakdown of the percentages of the type of mini CMGCs that you want to cultivate? So are you targeting 40% large, 40% small, 20% medium? Based on what you just said, Jeff, I think it's really important to get a picture of that. And so if there's going to be diversity in the types and the sizes of the mini CMGC firms, that would be really wonderful. Thank you. This is really great.
Well, if I could add to, first of all, I think Kenichi's right on, and I really appreciate your response too, Jeff. The idea, again, I go back to our task today while meeting community expectations. We'll get nothing but pushback in community when we say that's down the road. I think what Kenichi's doing tonight is also giving us an aspirational message. We may not know all the details right now, but this is what we aspire for. And I think that aspiration has a lot to do with how we communicate to community and how we begin to build their expectations that this is more than what they've already been reading in the paper about, or they've already seen demonstrations on, or all the things that have to do with environmental issues. Because again, I don't mean to sound like a preacher who doesn't know how to stop talking, but that's what is in the front of where people are. If our aspiration is everything Jeff is talking about right now, I say right on. By the way, that gets all of us excited. And what we know is if that's the message in community, again, whether it's the Black, the Brown, the API community, the whole bit, my sister Christine is going to do the same thing, right? This is good stuff. And that's why the push more than anything else, get somebody contracted with. I'm willing to put some skin in the game to help find who those people are, but get the aspirational message and information out there, let them see it and package it so that we can get that information out.
Hello, this is Corinne. Just for timing purposes, we have 2 minutes left in breakout.
Okay.
Corinne, this is the time to pass the plate. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Hey, let me help you, Matt. You are a preacher. Let me help you, Reverend Dr. Hennessy. You are. So I would say to you, it's all been great information, and everybody is hitting it. I just want to keep everybody realistic here. We have a long way to go. We're at 20% design. And if we try to push this thing too soon, we're going to be making decisions and making things that we won't be able to live up to. And that's going to make it a real chaotic situation. So we got to take our times in this process. We're going to be completely transparent. I have nothing to hide. What you see with me is what you get, right? We're going to work through this process together. And the ultimate goal is to benefit our community. That is the ultimate goal, right? To change the narrative, for this thing to look differently than it's ever looked before, for our businesses to be empowered, to see our people on the ground working in living wage jobs, our people buying homes, not low income, but buying market rate homes because they have living wage jobs, our businesses to grow, to get better. That's what this is all about. Thank you guys so much for all your input. I'm taking it all to heart. We got breakout in 117 seconds. Megan or Matt, anybody got closing remarks? Joe, anybody? Megan?
Yeah, I would just say thank you for this discussion, and Kenichi, keep your questions coming. You are spot on with your comments. So to Jeff's point, we're not there to be able to answer all of them, but you're asking the right things and you're pushing on us on the right things. So I welcome that and keep it coming.
Messaging critical, messaging very, very critical.
Amen.
Because I'm like Pastor, I almost said Master. Pastor Hennessy, hey, but I've been zooming all. Like Pastor Hennessy said, I'm hearing all that chatter. And, I want to be able to have a consistent message that's in alignment with what we all know, but we need to get it down on paper and really go on offense.
Yeah, and don't fear, Jeff, Megan, all of you, don't fear getting out there. I did this when I was the chair of PDC at Prosper Portland, is that if we don't set the bar, then we'll settle for wherever the bar settles. We've got to set the bar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got the power to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Amen. Pass the plate.
Amen.
You only got 30 seconds. Get the plate out, Matt. All right, guys. Thank you, John L. You're going to be the moderator and kind of take this from here, right?
Sounds good. We'll see y'all back in the main room.
All right.